And good morning. Welcome to the Bright Side. Pharmacist Ben here. 844-236-6010 is our number if you want to join us. If you've got questions about health, nutrition, or prescription drugs, if you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program, we can help you do that. 844-236-6010 is our number. If you want to purchase longevity products, go to brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com, or you can call 866-735-2470, 866-735-2470, and make sure you ask about joining the Brightside Ben team for a one-time $30 fee. You could be in business for yourself, make as much or as little money as you want, work as hard or as not hard as you want. I personally don't like working hard, and helping people with their nutrition and helping people understand how to use nutrition and using and selling the longevity products is sure isn't hard work. You're helping a lot of folks, and you can make a good bit of money. Call 866-735-2470, 866-735-2470 for more information. Now is the time to think about having a home-based business, 866-735-2470. If you want to purchase Truth Skin Health products, go to truthtreatments.com. And if you want to take a look at our now approaching or maybe even over 900 4- and 5-star reviews, go to truthreview.com, truthreview.com. We have a guest at the bottom of the hour. The Windy City Nanny is going to talk to us about child care in the time of COVID. I sometimes wonder the impact this is going to have on a generation of children who are now 6 and 7 and 8 years old and dealing at this formative, all the kids who are at the time in their lives where their mindset is being formed, probably, 6, 7 years old kind of thing, 5, 6, 7 year old. That's going to affect them for the rest of their life. It's kind of interesting. And we're going to talk to, there's probably things we could do to mitigate some of the damage. There's probably things that are just going to be, that's just going to shape the kid. We're going to talk to Florence Romano, the Windy City Nanny, about child rearing in the time of COVID at the bottom of the hour. We'll get your calls in our next segment, as we always do, 844-236-6010. So we have been talking about the distinction, the very important distinction, and the very underappreciated distinction between water and fat. Fat-soluble, water-soluble, hydrophilic, lipophilic. All of this has to do with electricity, and this is so important. We are electrical beings. We think chemistry, but we're electrical. Now, if you're on this program, if you've been listening to this program for any length of time, you know I'm all about electricity. I'm all about health being the end result of electrical flow, period. That's it. We live in a chemocentric world, but we're immersed in chemocentrism, but we really live in an electromagnetic world. And chemistry only works because of electricity. Fats and water are the fundamental distinction in chemistry because of their different electrical natures. We are electrical beings, so it makes sense that the two fundamental electrical natures, and there's other ways you can express this, by the way, and I'll tell you in a second here what I mean. The fundamental nature because the fundamental nature of us is electrical, if we're going to be healthy, we got to understand how the electrical systems work. Now, fats and water are one way the different electrical charges or poles show up. Also, also what we call positive and negative charges. Also, what we call pH. So between pH, positive and negative charges, and water and fat solubility, you have the three ways of expressing the same kind of way electricity moves, and they're all kind of connected. pH is acid-base, as they say. That's a distinction. Charge is positive, negative. That's a distinction. And solubility is water solubility and fat solubility. That's a distinction. They're primary distinctions that are really fundamental. It's how chemistry works in a nutshell. Is the movement of electricity that shows up as watery and fatty, basically, or as acid and base. There's a really cool book called Healing is Voltage, which talks all about the relationship between pH, acid, base, and positive and negative. And all of this has to do with how our chemistry works, how our bodies work. Now, I've been in the skin business for a long time, and let me tell you something. If you want to have really beautiful skin, use chemistry. Number one, use chemistry that facilitates electrical charges. That's why I use vitamin C. That's why I use retinol. All of these work with electrical charges. That's why I use electrolytes. And also things like galvanic current, topical galvanic current, to drive those active materials into the skin. You can have electricity, straight electricity onto the skin, and you can also have chemistry, electricity onto the skin. Understanding the electrical nature of the body can help you with every single system. And it's as simple as understanding the importance of pH and acid base. That's why oxygen is so important, by the way. Oxygen acts like a positive charge, or sorry, like a negative charge, like an alkaline. It's alkaline. If you want alkaline, you've all heard pH, the whole thing about eating for your, what do they call it? I forgot what they call it. Alkalinize or die. That was a famous book that came out, Alkalinize or Die. The whole idea being that you want to alkalinize your body with alkaline foods. Well, the most alkaline, the fastest way to alkalinize your blood is not with food, it's with oxygen. In fact, that's how we're supposed to alkalinize. That's how we're supposed to get these negative charges. Sorry, positive charges. Positive charges suck things up. Negative charges spew things out. That's a good way of thinking about it. Negative charges are extra electrons. Positive charges are a shortage of electrons. So when you have a shortage of electrons, you have a vacuum cleaner effect. And that's why you want to be alkaline. You want your blood to be like a vacuum cleaner, not like a fountain. When it's like a fountain, we're sick. When it's like a fountain of electrons, we're in the hospital. When you have a vacuum cleaner of electrons, when you're sucking up electrons, you have, first of all, you have a current because you're sucking up electrons, and then also you have good health. You have an electrical flow. If you're sucking, think about this, you're pulling, just think of taffy. You're pulling taffy, you're creating a connection, you're making it longer. If you're pushing taffy, you're shrinking it. Energy current is like that. You're pulling, you're inducing a current when you put positive charges in. Where do you get the negative charges to be pulled? Food. Food should have lots of negative charges. That's the ideal situation. Your food is electron rich, and your blood has a shortage. And the relationship between the shortage and the fountain, the electron rich, creates a current, and that's when you're healthy. I hope that's not too tricky. I mean, it is a little bit tricky to understand. Long story short is you want to eat electrically rich and you want to breathe. And you want to move your body. The combination of eating electrically rich and using nutrients to facilitate that electricity, and breathing and moving and resting are where you get good health. That's where you get nutriate, respirate, move, and rest. That's the fourfold square of health right there in a nutshell. It's all because of electromagnetics. All right, I am Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We've got the Windy City Nanny coming up at the bottom of the hour, and we'll get you and your calls if you're there, if you have anything to say, at 844-236-6010. We'll be back right after this. On the bright side, 844-236-6010 is our number. We've got the Windy City Nanny coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're going to talk about child rearing in the time of COVID, or child care in the time of COVID. And then we'll get your calls this segment, 844-236-6010. I was reading today from MedPage about amyloid plaques and sleep issues, and there's also a relationship to COVID, as it turns out. Amyloid plaques are the fibers that show up in the brain of patients who have dementia that are blamed for dementia. As it turns out, of course, we know that fibers don't just randomly form for no good reason. Fibers are a sign of repair. Fibrosis is one of those common threads that runs through the aging process. Fibrosis. In fact, a case could be made that fibrosis is the quintessential sign of the aging process. Fibrosis is behind all long-term chronic suffering. Anything you could do to reduce or eliminate, or I should say prevent fibrosis, is in your health interest, not just your physical health interest, but your mental health interest, because pain comes from fibrosis. As anybody who's dealing with fibrosis will be able to tell you, pain comes from fibrosis. So anything you do to mitigate fibrosis, as far as Alzheimer's goes, Alzheimer's is fibrosis of the brain. Dementia is fibrosis of the brain, period. That's what it is. It's fibrosis of the brain. By the way, there's a condition called amyloidosis, which is Alzheimer's dementia of the body. Yes, you can have Alzheimer's dementia if you understand this mechanism. You can have Alzheimer's dementia of the body. It's amyloidosis, they call it. That's why I say you got to like dive deep to understand how the body works. Otherwise, you're going to fall for everything. That's what's going on today, by the way, because we don't dive deep into the body for whatever reason. It's not for some reason we're intimidated by it. We get pulled by the nose like a farm animal by those of us who are a lot smaller than us, who purport to understand things, purport to be authorities. And I say purport because they're just fronting too, although maybe they have some more data. It's kind of like, you have we have this thing about science, and we have this thing about expertise, it's all that in a bag of chips. No, it's not. Experts are wrong all the time. That's why we want to be our own personal experts. So-called experts are wrong all the time. And science is a religion too. You got to understand how science works if you're going to really take advantage of facts, of scientific facts, so-called scientific facts, because science changes. That's why I don't really pay attention to studies, by the way. There's certain parts of science that don't change, and that is the fact how your body's put together. That doesn't change. But beliefs, ideas about the cholesterol hypothesis, classic example. Sodium hypothesis, another example. These things that we know that are true in science, supposedly, vaccines work. That's another one. We assume that those are science and they know what they're talking about, but they're wrong all the time. We have to become our own authorities. We have to become our own experts. Because we have to do that with everything we interact with, at least our own, if not an expert, at least know enough to be able to make your own decisions. But it's certain, especially with the body. All right, 844-236-6010. Got my buddy Kevin on the line from Moscow, Russia. Hey, Kevin, good morning.
Hey, buddy.
How you doing?
Talk about breathing, and I said,
Yeah.
yes, this is one of the best things that you taught me. And as I'm getting stressed, like right now I'm looking for certain things in my apartment, throwing out the old, keeping the new, and I misplaced one of my eyeglasses. And when I do that, I start deep breathing because I don't need to be stressed.
Yeah. It's interesting how we reflect. We almost go into it like a reflex. We go into stress like a reflex.
Not with
You got to override it consciously. If you don't override it consciously, you'll just go into it.
There's some people will, and I see it, especially with my students.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to speak with you about is maca. You got any good info on this?
Yeah, let me tell you about that. But first, let me say something, Kevin. I want to thank you publicly for all the stuff you're doing with the YouTube. That's like amazing stuff. You put it together every day. You've done it for years. And so for the listeners, this is Kevin from Moscow, Russia, who does it. And, it's funny you would call today because I had Sinatra. Did you hear yesterday's show with Steven Sinatra?
Yeah.
And you know what? He's the only other guy I've ever met that talks like you, like that, with that kind of accent, like that intense. I shouldn't say that, but he's reminded me of you.
Yeah.
And then you call the next day. And also, by the way, I was going to tell you something about Shea Stadium. Yeah. The first game I saw there was the Cardinals too, by the way, and I felt the same way how green it was.
It was like totally amazing when you.
Yeah, it was totally. I remember as an 8-year-old kid, I looked at it. I had never seen green like that. It's cool.
And the greenness was more outstanding than how big Shea used to be, especially when we were kids.
Yeah, that's funny. But when you wrote that to me, I'm like, damn, I remember thinking exactly the same thing. And the first game I saw was a Cardinals game. Anyway, nobody else cares about that. So the maca is really interesting. It's like nature. There's certain plants in the natural kingdom that have caffeine-like substances in them. Guarana. Have you heard of that one? Probably.
No.
And then of course all the cocoa and coffee that have the caffeine in there. But maca is another one of those. Maca is like a ginseng type. Ginseng is another one. It's an adaptogenic. The speed that you get, the buzz that you get, is not the same as the buzz that you get from caffeine. It's softer. It has nutrients in it. And if you do the whole maca plant, you're going to get like vitamin C, you'll get copper, you'll get iron, you'll get, in addition to adaptogenic nutrients, you'll get electrolytes. It's really quite nutritious. If you chew on the maca root, for example, you can get fiber. Or if you eat the maca root, you can get fiber. Or if you chew on it, you can get things that are good for your liver nutrients. So it's pretty good stuff. It's also aphrodisiac, supposedly.
Well, that's not a bad thing, I guess.
There you go. All right. Does that help?
That helps.
Are you going to take it? What are you going to do it? Maca tea?
Actually, I got capsules. It's a German formulation.
You let me know. Why don't you shoot me a note? Just let me know. Have you done it yet?
Yeah, I got it actually last Monday, so today's the 8th
What do you think?
day.
Did I just?
I don't get the
buzz
from it, because I'm the type of guy I could have a strong cappuccino or espresso at 11 o'clock and be by 11:30. So
yeah, it's not that strong. No, it's not that strong. If you could do coffee, it's definitely not as strong as coffee. If you could do coffee, then you probably won't notice.
So it's not going to.
But it's good if you're trying to wean It's good if you're trying to wean yourself off from caffeine, because it gives you a slight buzz, but not as intense. So it's not like you're going cold turkey.
Hold on, Nijan. My daughter's right here.
Oh, you know what? We got a commercial. What's your daughter's name?
Nijana.
I can't really understand that, but Bijana? I think you said. All right, well, I'm losing you there, Kevin. Hey, buddy, I'll talk to you later, man.
Sorry about that.
Thanks for staying in touch. All right, man. That's Kevin Peterson. He does all our YouTube videos. Thank you so much for doing that, Kevin, and thank you for listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back with the Windy City Nanny right after this. Okay, we are back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific, 10 to 11 Central Time, and 24/7 on the archive page, brightsideben.com, and also benfuchsarchives.com. You can purchase longevity products at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com. We've got news stories, blog posts, lots of good health information on all the websites, and a Join the Team link that you can click on to join the Brightside Ben team. Also want to remind you to check out our Truth Skin Health products, all formulated in my compounding pharmacy for healing burns and wounds and pre-surgery and post-surgery to prevent scarring, to slow down scarring or help accelerate healing. What I found out was healing is beauty. Healing is beauty. Health is beauty. When you heal the skin, you beautify the skin. All our Truth Treatment products are without preservatives, fragrances, fillers, waxes, emulsifiers, vegetable oil, nothing your skin doesn't need or doesn't want in any of our Truth Skin Health products. All right, I am really excited to have our guest on, the Windy City Nanny. As she brands herself, she's an expert in childcare. We're going to talk about COVID-19 and the future of childcare. We'll talk about that's kind of what I really want to focus on. Please welcome to the Bright Side, Florence Romano, the Windy City Nanny. Hey, Florence. Or
Hi.
Is that what you go by, Florence, or Windy City? I'm not sure what to call you. Windy City Nanny? Just Flo? What do you go by?
Anything is fine. Florence Ann is my first name, like Marianne, and my nickname is Lo, L-O. So anything is fine with me.
Okay, well, I've been watching your videos, so I'm going to call you Lo because I feel like I know you, as I told you. And I also told you that I thought it was so cool that you branded yourself. You have a little umbrella. You got an Instagram page. You're totally telegenic and look great on YouTube. And it's really cool how you've done that. I'm very, very impressed. Now, did you study nannying, or did you fall into it, or? There's no degree. There's nothing you can get, no certification, is there?
You can go get certified and and certain skills for child care, but there's no necessarily nanny degree. But there are certain programs you could get into that can help you kind of get certified in different, like I said, child care capacities. But I really started as a nanny because I just have loved children. I started as a mother's helper at the age of 11, and like a lot of young girls, kind of transitioned into being a babysitter. And then after that, it just kind of happened naturally. And then I started nannying for a bunch of different families and did it for 15 years. And it was the time of my life. And then after, the winds changed and the Mary Poppins phrase, you stay until the wind changes. And the wind changes for lots of different reasons in nannies' lives. And now I get to, on the other side of, being a nanny in the home with children, I can work with families and children more of in a consultant way.
Wow.
And I really enjoy it. It's wonderful, wonderful work.
Are you like the family whisperer?
I've never heard it put that way, but I would like to think. Think that I at least bring some.
Everybody, that sounds like a cool skill. That sounds like a real and a necessary one.
Right, that sounds awesome. I think I would love to do something like that. But really, what my philosophy really comes from 3 different platforms. I always say that you need to build your village, ask for help, and let love in. Those are the 3 things you need to do in order to make a successful family and to make the trifecta work. The trifecta being the parents, the children, and the caretaker or the nanny. And if you concentrate on that, if you pay attention to that, then I think you're going to be setting yourselves up for success in that family and making sure, first and foremost, that the children have a responsible role model in their lives to help them as they grow.
So you just said a whole bunch of stuff there, man. So build a village, let love in. What was the second one?
Ask for help.
Ask for help. Ask for help, of course.
Help.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the hardest one sometimes for people, to ask for help. So go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No. I was just going to say during COVID, asking for help has proved to be very difficult.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to talk to you about was COVID. I see kids with masks. I see little kids not wearing masks, but seeing everybody else with masks. And I wonder what do you think as a student of the child, which you obviously are a student of children, what do you think the impact of that is going to be on a generation in, say, the year 2040, 2050?
If you look at history, we've all survived lots of different things. And I think that this is one of the things that we're going to look back on, and you're going to remember where you were when it happened and what the experience was like. But depending on the age of the child, it affects them in a different way. It imprints on them in a different way. It's funny when you think about how adults have reacted to COVID and then children. There's really not much difference. There's a lot of common denominators in terms of feelings. There's anxiety. There's stress. There's fear. There's all sorts of different things. And just because you're adult doesn't mean that you're not feeling these things maybe as strongly as a child. I believe, and maybe it's the eternal optimist in me, but I do believe we're all going to come out of this and be okay. And I don't think the lasting effects are going to be as extreme as one might think. It's always hard to see the other side when you're going through the storm right now. And that's why it's very difficult, I think, for families and everyone kind of, I guess, in the country and across the globe to imagine life on the other side of this. But if history has showed us anything, it has showed us that life does happen and it does go on and we will get to the other side of this. But you have to do the mental and emotional work to get there. And that is for children and adults.
How would you recommend that parents make sure that the kids were doing the work while they're young? What would you tell a parent to tell a kid? Or
I believe in emotional. Yeah, I believe in emotional intelligence. I believe that emotional intelligence is very important. It's something that we have to teach children, and adults need to work on this as well. So during all this COVID stuff going on, hiding what's going on from children, that's not the best plan. I don't believe in telling them every nook and cranny or scaring them. I think you have to censor and edit what information you share with them based on how old they are. But you have to allow children to express themselves the same way an adult wants to express themselves to family or friends. You want children to be able to communicate with you in an emotional language. But beyond that, you want them to be able to feel comfortable and safe having a conversation with somebody. They need to learn to do that. So they're also going to learn from your example. And I urge parents right now, as in the political climate and in the COVID climate, all of it. Be careful how you're reacting to television or radio or media that you're taking in, because children are picking up on that energy. It's permeating them, and everything is always a life lesson. Everything, they're gonna mirror it, they're gonna watch it, they're gonna see it. So I feel that in order to keep yourselves emotionally and mentally healthy, you have to really make a concerted effort to kind of check yourself before you wreck yourself. Make sure you feel out the situation and think, am I acting in the best interest of my child? Am I being the right type of example to them?
Wow. That's not just for children, by the way. That's for everything. Check yourself before did you say check yourself before you wreck yourself? That's really cool. That's great. That is great. That's awesome. Yeah, I wonder, has this helped you be a better adult studying children? And has it helped you deal with adults more functionally or more effectively, I should say?
That's a funny question, because I actually said to someone the other day that I truly feel that I'm constantly chasing the child inside. I'm chasing the child within me.
We got to take a commercial. I want to talk about that. That's a great point. We got to take a commercial break. We're talking to the Windy City Nanny, her website, WindyCityNanny.com. We'll be back on the bright side right after this. On the bright side, I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're talking to the Windy City Nanny, the nanny that I will always think of from now on. Whenever I think of nannies, I will always think of you, Windy City Nanny. You have a Facebook page, you have an Instagram page, which I am a follower of, and a really cool blog, and you even quote Mary Poppins. You are a very special lady. Windy City Nanny. So before we went to break, you were saying something really interesting, and I want to get into that. You said you're constantly chasing the child within?
Yes. You asked me what I've learned from children about myself as an adult, and I think the older I get, the more I'm constantly chasing the child within, because they seem to get it better than we do. When we're little, we look at the world differently than we do as an adult. We're little and we love everybody, and we're curious, and we're excited, and we're joyful, and we get older and we get a little jaded and we get a little cynical, and we see too much of the world, and we see things around us that are bad, and it starts to bring you down. And kids live in this kind of starry-eyed place. And not to say that we should all live in denial and everything's just happy-go-lucky, because there are real things that happen in the world. But I'm constantly chasing that child within, because I believe that the balance, the origin inside a child is just so delicious, because you want to be able to look at the world with the eyes that a child does. Sometimes a child can explain things to us better than an adult, because they're coming from such a pure place. So I think I'm constantly trying to find that purity still within me as an adult. And I admire it so much in children, and I always wonder, how can we translate those innate, very instinctive things that we have as children and make sure we carry that through adulthood?
The Bible says you have to be like a little child to enter the kingdom of heaven. And I used to watch my kid get out of bed in the morning, and I would contrast that with how an adult got out of bed in the morning. Like, an adult doesn't get out of bed in the morning, or doesn't want to get out of bed, and a kid can't wait to get out of bed in the morning.
That's exactly it. They leap out of bed, and they have
they leap out of bed. Imagine if we leaped out of bed to go to work.
I don't think I've done that in a long time.
Can you imagine? That would be like in a movie or some like cartoon or caricature. Nobody ever leapt out of bed to go to work, right?
Exactly. But you're landing on a very important point, which is, how do you still find that joy? How do you still find that excitement as an adult? And there are still things, of course, naturally as an adult, that do bring you joy and excite you and all those different things, but it's
not much, Windy City Nanny. Maybe a couple things.
Right now it's hard to find the joy. I know it is.
There's a couple. Love will do it. Love does it.
It's true. Love does it. But I have always said that you can never count on anybody else to make you happy except yourself. You have to build happy life for yourself.
Yeah.
I've always been a person that always says to people, I never want to hear you say, and you'll never hear me say, when I get this, or when I do that, or when this happens, I'll be happy. And I had to
You're
learn
like a
that,
Zen nanny. You are a Zen nanny, by the way.
Well, I sound like I'm so zen, I guess, when I say this stuff, but I'm challenged by all of this the same way everybody is, but it's through different life experiences and through talking to different people that I so admire how zen they are, or how balanced they are. How do they what do they do in order to keep themselves balanced or keep themselves grounded? And so, it's a potpourri of things. You kind of take a little bit over here, take a little bit over there, and you shake it up, and that
great.
becomes what you are.
No, that's awesome. You're so full of wisdom here. It's interesting because it would take a wise person to really appreciate a child, and it sounds like you really get children. Like you really appreciate children. I could see why you'd be a great nanny, and I could see why you are a nanny, because you sound like you really, like you get off, like in joy, get this surge of something, just love and beauty when you see children, right? I know what you're talking about.
I do. I'm so enamored with children and what makes up a child. But honestly,
the innocence.
It's not even. It's innocence, exactly. It's innocence, but it's also the idea that you're looking at a child and you're seeing so much promise and you're seeing so much hope, and that to me is just extraordinary. And
it's the best of humanity. Wouldn't you say it's the best of humanity, a child?
It is the best of humanity. It is, and you want to look at a child and think to yourself, what can I learn here? And I think for me, why I'm enamored with children so much is, I think the basic common value in life is everyone wants to feel understood. Everyone wants to feel understood by, their friends, their family, whomever it is. And I feel for me, when you said that I understand children, I think for me it's just the idea that I want them to feel understood. I want them
beautiful.
to feel.
That's
and
awesome.
so I think that curiosity to me is what bonds me to a child, is just wanting to know everything they know. I want to know how they look at the world, how they look at.
Yeah. They probably get it too, and they probably respond appropriately. Like you're probably creating great bonds when you do that with a child.
The bonds that you create with children are so different across the board because, everybody has different personalities, and, you have to appreciate and honor and respect, a child for who they are and the journey that they're about to go on. We never stop growing. As adults, we should never stop growing. There's a quote that is, I'm becoming who I'm becoming. And, you're starting that at a very young age, and so, at almost 35 years old, here I am, and I'm still saying that. I'm becoming who I'm becoming, and I'll still say it at 45 and 55. And the last breath I take on earth, I will still be becoming whatever it is that I'm becoming, because the point is you should constantly be chasing it. You should constantly be chasing a betterment or to learn more.
Improvement,
or love
Kaizen.
more.
Learn, constant and never-ending improvement, like always learning, growing, evolving. That's what keeps you young, don't you think? I have this thing I call old man's disease that I found from my dad. I noticed it from my dad, where you know everything. You know exactly how everything should be, what kind of tie you should wear, what kind of hair you should have, where your hair should be, everything, kind of car you should drive. You know everything about everything. And that's when you get old.
You do. It's true. I mean, you get old. That's the badge of honor you get to wear if you get to make it to old age, that you do know so much. And, I grew up in an old-fashioned Italian family. My mom's parents, my nana and papa, they lived with me most of my life, and it was the best time ever. I mean, they were the loves of my life, my grandparents, and the wealth of knowledge that they were. I always said to people, I didn't just get to know Nana and Papa. I got to know Florence and Adam, and you can tell I'm named after my grandmother. And so, I mean, that was the truth. I got to experience both my grandparents as grandparents, but then who they were as people, their life experience that they shared with us, their personalities and their hopes and dreams and fears and everything. I think that's such a gift to be given, to be able to have a window into someone's world in that way. And I feel that something we really need to work on today in the world is respecting elderly. I think that we've let that go a little bit, where children think they're supposed to be equal to adults, and you're not. And I was raised with a great deal of respect for my elders, for adults, and to learn from them. And so I think we need to kick it back a little old school in that way and expose children to different cultures, different people, all sorts of different things, so they can be a fully well-rounded person who's kind and tolerant and loving and all these different things. But the only way you do that is if you give them the opportunity to experience different things. And so it's up to us. It's up to us to make sure we're surrounding our children with the influences that are important to you and the values of your family.
That's awesome, Windy City Nanny. Thank you so much for that. You've got a blog, you've got Instagram, you've got Facebook. Do you have any books or anything? Have you written anything? Oh, you wrote a children's book.
Yes, Nanny and Me. You can go to my website, windycitynanny.com. It's a book that is told from the child's perspective about what happens when your parents go to work and who stays home with you. So it's about the transition of being cared for by a nanny or a caretaker.
Okay, well, I wanted to talk about the child care crisis. That was kind of the topic I was going to cover, but we never got to talk about it. Maybe you'll come on again, and well, that was very, very interesting. And you're definitely a guru that is coming in the guise of a nanny. And I know who you are, Windy City Nanny. So you can't fool me. Thank you so much for being on the bright side. Appreciate it.
So much fun. Thank you so much.
All right, take care. That was Florence Romano, Windy City Nanny. Her website is windycitynanny.com, and she's got a blog, and she's prolific and got lots of great YouTube videos. That was very interesting. And she's much more than a nanny. I know who she is. The Zen Nanny, Windy City Nanny. All right. Thanks for listening to The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Please check out our websites, brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com for longevity products and Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com. And our Truth Reviews, 900 now, close to 900, 4- and 5-star reviews at truthreview.com. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll talk to y'all later, folks. Bye for now.